for a deeper dive on the San Francisco 49ers, we welcome in Brad Graham from the sfniners.com. Brad, it seems like you've been at every practice this preseason thus far, even making the trip to Minnesota. Have you missed one?
I have made the majority of them. I really have not missed any of them. It's been a pleasure to be there and get to see what this team's going to look like this year.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the show, and let's start with the burning question. That would be Jimmy Garoppolo.
It's been a hell of a ride, guys. I love you guys. So, see ya.
Said his goodbyes to this franchise all the way back in February. The roster is going to be trimmed down to 53 by Tuesday. What are the percentage chances that Jimmy Garoppolo is on said 53-man roster?
I think it's one of those moving targets all the way since March that we've been able to track up until this point, but it does feel like the time is coming to an end.
I have heard, though, that there's a chance Jimmy Garoppolo could potentially make that 53-man roster just because they want to keep him away from Seattle for as long as possible. Is that a possibility that you're hearing?
I've heard that as well. They could keep him on the 53-man because his contract doesn't get guaranteed until week 1, so they potentially can hold him all the way up until the deadline. So that is a potential, and it is something that I am potentially bracing for, but we'll see if that ultimately comes down, because that does mean that someone on the roster will have to be cut that theoretically is deserving. So it will be very interesting to watch play out.
Trey Lance, you've been watching him this entire preseason. What part of his game needs to improve the most?
I think the biggest thing with Trey Lance is just getting the confidence, being able to get those reps under his belt, be able to hit those throws, whether it's over the middle to the sideline. I think we got a glimpse of that against the Texans. You saw him miss the one to Kittle, and he probably would have wanted that one back. But I think the biggest thing with Trey Lance is, again, just getting that comfortability within the scheme with Kyle and being able to go out and show he can do it on Sundays. He's proven he could do it at training camp. It's now just moving towards the field on Sundays.
When the 49ers drafted defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw at number 14 back in the 2020 draft, he was supposed to replace DeForest Buckner on that line. Thus far, it's been injury-riddled and really unsuccessful thus far. What makes you think, based on what you've seen of him in camp, that this is the year he bursts through?
Well, we got a little bit of a glimpse of it against Minnesota. You got the sack on Kirk Cousins, and you saw a couple run stuffs. He's really shown an ability to bounce back from this injury. I had the pleasure of interviewing Javon back in March, and he told me that they were able to go in there and fix the original problem that has been plaguing him back to his college days, and they were able to get it under control, and he is feeling better than he's ever felt, and we're seeing that start to come to fruition.
Another factor that we've heard would be Brandon Aiyuk, the coaching staff, the players. Everyone's been raving about this guy. Say you, what's your take on Brandon Aiyuk heading into this year?
Brandon Aiyuk was by far the most dominant player of training camp, and he was going up against some stout competition, whether it was Charvarius Ward or Emmanuel Mosley at the cornerback position. Him and Trey Lance have clearly developed a rapport that stems to their offseason training. He looks like he is going to have a monster year for this team.
Well, in order for him to have a monster year, Trey Lance has to have some time to throw it. Didn't look like he had a ton of time against the Houston Texans. The offensive line struggled mightily in that game. You, having watched this entire camp unfold thus far, give the 49er faithful some reason to think that this line's not going to be an issue.
I think once we see Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey get back there with the bookends, left tackle and right tackle, it's really going to shore up a lot of the things that we kind of saw, especially this preseason against the Texans. I think once those two guys are back in the lineup, it's going to settle things down quite a bit. And we saw that when they were playing in training camp with Burford, Banks, and Brendel. They are still building a continuity, but you are starting to see that they do have potential to be good. They just need to build more stability with reps and just getting comfortable playing next to each other.
I want your sleeper pick heading into the season. Who did you watch have a really good camp that hasn't gotten a lot of media hype?
It's been a hard decision to pick, but it's coming between Emmanuel Mosley or Talanoa Hufanga. I think I'm leaning more Emmanuel Mosley at this point because he is a veteran in this defense now. A lot of the hype went towards Charvarius Ward, the shiny free agent addition that the 49ers added, but Emmanuel Mosley, when he is on the field, he has proven to be a lockdown cornerback, and I think he's going to be someone that is going to take additional strides this year, and you can see is being pushed by Charvarius Ward. Ward is a phenomenal press man corner, and you're starting to see Emmanuel Mosley continue to develop those tools in his game. So I'm really looking forward to Emmanuel Mosley as being a guy that gets a little bit more hype this year.
Brad Graham with the SFNiners.com. You can follow the account on Twitter at the SFNiners. Thank you for joining the show today, man.
Thank you for having me.